Nearly there. One moment. Hello, Hanuman Satsang.
Oh, we need to change that. Let's rename. Can we rename?
Yeah, I think you click your name or something. I'm sure you know it. Stephen Mukta. Hello, Stephen Mukta, Jeevan Mukta. Namaste. Nice to see you.
Thank you. All good?
Yes. Just rushing around.
In
Yep.
Portuguese, we say tudo bem. Tudo bem.
Yeah, it's like all good.
Yeah.
Tudo bem?
It's
So is it? Bem?
if you think of it as Bime, it's spelled
Bem.
B-E-M, but you can think of it as
Tudo bem.
B-E-M-G, but you don't say the G, so
Oh,
it helps you
okay.
get that a little nasal.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, picking up some Portuguese.
Yeah, and a little bit, un poco.
Yeah, good.
And it's really impressive. I mean, if you can bring a sentence or two to a conversation, the people really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
Yeah. So here we are. Shall we jump right in?
We're here
Yes.
too. Oh, look, it's getting blurred because I have a blur thing up.
It takes a moment for your camera to focus.
Yeah, the Way of the Bodhisattva.
Yeah, and I don't really have a lot of notes, but I have a couple of points to kind of set the context a little bit. Here
Yeah.
we are on chapter 4, and Shantideva is very much talking to himself. He's basically using this chapter to reflect on bodhicitta, and he really is firm about never giving in to the torments of his own mind. So he's saying that he's taken a vow and he wants to block any retreat in moving forward.
Oh, yeah. We should take this vow now as well.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm down.
We and anyone who's listening, because it's kind of has to be like that, isn't it? Like, what words did you say there? You said something like in something about moving forward, but before you said the vow, I can't remember. I was going to say something, it slipped out of my mind. Sure.
He wants to block any sort of retreat, and in part, he's saying that there's devastating consequences here.
Yeah.
That human birth is a very rare and special attainment,
Yeah.
and if we allow, I don't like to use the word, but backsliding, right? If you
Yeah.
allow that, then you're like squandering
Yeah.
the opportunity.
And we do have the power to do this. It's kind of just like a choice again and again and again. And I see it like somehow some kind of memory is coming. Even during the week, there was something, I don't know, something in my being, and I was going along on my bike. I think I was feeling sad about something. And then I was just like, oh. And then it's like you really, the only way to be peaceful with any situation at all is to just really to just recognize this, like what's here, maybe like the bodhicitta mind. And there isn't really any other way out. So it's not like, I don't know, you can't really block it in the sense of blocking it coming, like, because whatever will come, like just in the same way, like humans, we do things to try to control the weather and all sorts of things, but you can't control something like that. But what you can do is choose to not let it sweep you away. Like the same way you can choose to not let the weather bother you. It's just like, okay, this is the way the weather is today. So it's the same. It is our own internal weather system, you could say. So it's just like, okay, you notice the weather, and like Rumi says, everything is welcome here. Because if we have that sense of like, I need to block it in that kind of way that we think about the word block sometimes, that's kind of like a resistance. But if we think about the word like block, like you say, like we have to block it, it really just means to choose, so to choose to not get swept up in that kind of current of whatever it is. And it can still be there. So for me, I was feeling some like sadness just about some kind of, I can't remember now exactly, but some kind of interaction that I had with Eshan. um, these kind of parental things that come up. But so it's not that the sadness disappeared like straight away, but it's just like, okay, like this sadness is here, but like there's something far greater than that that's here. And it's just like, oh yes, like it's kind of just to be grateful to recognize that, because we've all had times when we've gotten swept up in that and not noticed like that our bodhicitta nature, to use the language of Shantideva.
I noticed as you're speaking, and I know that we're both recording and live streaming, but someone has their little hand in the upper
I know.
right-hand corner.
I don't know how my hand got up. That was my hand.
Well, it's a beautiful little golden hand.
Yeah. So
Would you like to read?
this chapter is called Carefulness. The children of the conqueror, who thus have firmly grasped this bodhicitta, should never turn aside from it, strive never to transgress its disciplines. Whatever was begun without due heed, and all that was not properly conceived, although a promise and a pledge were given, it is right to reconsider. Shall I act or not? Yet, yet what the Buddhas and their heirs have scrutinized in their great wisdom, I myself have probed and scrutinized. Why should I now procrastinate? For if I bind myself with promises, but fail to carry out my words in deed, then every being will have been betrayed. What destiny must lie in store for me? It's like that, we start at the beginning of our kind of spiritual journey and we're real adamant, maybe we start from a place like, I don't want to suffer anymore. And then we come to maybe some teaching or some teacher, and they're imparting everything to us and they're helping us to look inside and find the truth of who we are, is what I like to say. But we find what's really here and what's true about us. And then it's like, oh, phew, so good. But then what seems to happen to a lot of us is we do get a bit, I don't know what the word is, like we get a bit relaxed or lackadaisy and we don't value that. And we just kind of easily sway and easily go back to the mind. And somehow it almost seems like it's not so important anymore because we've gone through that phase of how when it's so important. And that phase could last for any amount of time. It could last for a week, could last for a year, could last for 10 years, even sometimes, or 20 or 30 years or whatever amount of time. But then something can happen. And I think it's like a trick of the mind, the way there's many, many tricks that the mind plays. So it's like we've spent this amount of time with a wonderful spiritual teacher and we've recognized something. We've recognized that grace is here and grace is moving everything. And then it's kind of like something creeps in, like a feeling of like, okay, I know now. I've got this now. I know what's going on. So then when the old ways kind of creep back in, like just different ways of thinking, old ideas that we have that are maybe very much connected to like feelings and everything in our body. So even though we really know deeply in our heart, we're kind of lazy in a way. We don't kind of do what he's suggesting that we do. He's suggesting that we just be firm in our, I don't know if it's the right words, but firm in our resolve to stay with this truth that we've discovered. Instead, we kind of let ourselves like, oh, it's okay. And even sometimes where there's a conscious thought about it, there can be conscious thought like, I know it's fine. Like, I'll just like, I'll just like go with this for a while or something. And then somehow it can seem like a lot of effort then to come back. So I think it's very important what he's saying to just have that real firm resolve like all the time, even for little small things. And I don't think that's like because it happens to everyone. Like, I don't think that it means that we should be hard on ourselves or beat ourselves up, if we've spent some time buying into a story or being totally engaged with life, because it happens to everybody. Even I would say, even like really great masters, it can happen to like momentarily. So we don't have to, compare ourselves to others or measure anything. Just like as soon as we recognize, just like come back and then just completely forget about that, whether it was 1 minute or 1 day or 1 week, even that we've been engaging in something, it's okay. Like, just like right now, we have the grace here to choose to recognize what's true and stop giving that um, so much value and weight, like that it's something really meaningful for us when we know it's not really. And I don't want to say like that nothing in life has meaning. That's not what I'm saying. But to just recognize the where we're looking from and where we really are. So everything is allowed to play out, and we can give it even all the meaning we want, as long as we know that we're the ones giving it the meaning, and it doesn't inherently have that meaning. Like, I've heard Muji saying that often as well, and I think it's a really important point because we give so many things meaning, and very heavy meanings. We give things, and usually very heavy meanings about ourselves. Because I've behaved like this, it means that I'm not a good mother. I'm sure I'm saying that because I've probably seen that in myself. Or, I'm not a good person, or I'm not worthy to be loved, or whatever it is. Like, we give meanings to things. But even if the remnant, I don't know, like there can be like a feeling that that thing is true, because sometimes if there's those ideas are there, there's a feeling here. And just because we have a feeling, we make it mean that, well, it's definitely true because this feeling is here. So it has to be that we recognize, and not because of a thought or because of I'm saying it or because someone else is saying it, but because we look and we recognize that actually I'm beyond all of this, like the feelings as well. So then the feelings can be here without giving them depth of meaning as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm caught on the tricks, mind tricks, the whole thing about effort,
Yeah.
as if the idea that no effort is required is in fact permission to be lazy, because laziness ultimately comes, and then a little
Yeah.
sloppy in your resolve, at
Yeah.
least for me. So,
Yeah. I feel like for many, many people probably in every field, but so also in the field of spirituality, like there might be, you know, 10,000 people that come to spirituality and it's really true for them. Obviously, there's more than that, but 10,000 people come and it's really true for them and they really have a real urge in their heart and it's really true in the beginning. But then as they follow the path, then how many people are left at the end? You know, like 5 or 10 people. But like you can be one of those people if you choose to be. And it's like that spark. I think I've said that before, like that spark that we come with in the beginning, or we might have it in the beginning, or maybe sometimes it comes in the middle, but that spark that makes us really want the truth or really wants us to not suffer or whatever it is, like that spark we have to keep it burning, keep it alive, not let it die out because we believe that we know now.
mm,
Oh, I know now. Like I've achieved something or nothing I can do, can take it away. Which is true. But like if you just kind of maybe you see it and you have that as an insight and you really know it. But then if it then turns into just something that your mind knows, which somehow it's like I said, like a trick of the mind. Not that the mind is trying to trick us. The mind isn't trying to trick us. The mind is in a way here for us. It's like it's like doing everything we can to make sure that we stay in the light in a way. It's kind of like, I don't know. I don't think this would be a good analogy, but this is what's in my mind about doing some kind of exercise with, like, let's say you're doing like weights or something, like to grow your muscle. Like you have to keep doing it to grow it. So it's not going to be able to just like do it straight away. It's not really a great analogy. I don't know why that was cool. Maybe it is for
Well,
someone.
guarding the mind is something that has its own chapter. I don't know if it's the next one or the one after, but he's going to come
Yeah,
back to that very strongly soon.
yeah, yeah, that's good. And I do feel like it's very, very, very important. And I mean, I'm still relatively young, I'm not 70 or 80, so I've only been with this kind of teaching for like 10 years. So maybe in like what am I now? I'm 40, so 56, maybe in 30 years, I'll say something else. I'll say, no, it's not important to guard the mind or something. But like now, in these last like 10 years, like I say, no, like it's really, really important. Like you have to.
Mm.
And you
Hmm.
can't get like, I like that word. I think the next chapter has the word something about vigilance.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I like it and I feel like it's important. It's not like it has to be like every minute of every day. Something in us is like us ourselves is like super intelligent. Like we know when it's needed. So if there's a guard outside a castle, he's just standing there. I'm thinking of those ones outside the Queen of England place. They'll stand there like that. So most of the time they're not doing anything, but they're there if needed. So kind of in the same way in our being, it's not that we have to be like on alert and in fear, because that's opposite to what we want, but it's just like something in us is vigilant. So like if everything is peaceful and calm and the mind is like not being believed in, then there's no need for anything. But as soon as there's a energy stream, we know everything. Even the subtlest things we can pick up on. So if somehow the mind is coming up with some kind of story and like we're starting to buy into it, there'll be some quality there that this guard knows that it needs to perk up. And maybe it doesn't know exactly what's going on straight away, but it'll look and find out like, okay, he's like maybe he hears the alarm or somewhere around the gate, so he has to find like where it is or something in us just kind of knows and we can find it and then just say no.
Oh, I love this. I love this whole idea. It's really
Yeah.
cool. We're giving that guy some love right now. That
Yeah.
this inner faculty, if you will. That's beautiful.
Oh, that's a lot of talking, so that's
You're
okay.
on you're on verse 5.
Okay. If in the teachings it is said that those who in their thoughts intend to give a small and paltry thing, but then draw back, will take rebirth as hungry spirits, how can I expect a happy destiny if from my heart I summon wandering beings to the highest bliss, but then deceive and fail them? Oh, that's really nice. I don't know if this is what it means, but like for me, it means like wandering beings. Like, so you're summoning, like from your heart, you're summoning wandering beings to the highest bliss. For me, what I hear, although I don't know if this is what it is, but it's like, like just the parts of yourself, the different parts of ourselves that are, lost, hurt, all of that. So, like when they come up, we're summoning them to the highest bliss by allowing them to be free to go back there, ultimately by not giving them meaning and depth and weight, all of that we've been talking about, letting them continue to live in a world of suffering, but instead we welcome them, and let them, where you're really letting them into the highest bliss by not giving them meaning and just allowing them to be here with you. There's nothing you have to do. But then if you deceive and fail them, so you deceive and fail them by all of that, what we said, yeah. I don't know.
That's disappointing.
I don't
No, that's not on. That's not on.
know. Yeah. And this is what spirituality is really. I think sometimes it seems like it's set out like, I'm here and there's a higher part of myself. somewhere over here, there's like, my higher self or God or whatever words you want to do. So I have to get from here to here. And once I get from here to here, then that's the journey. But that's not really the journey. That's like pretend. And it's like the pretend part of the seeming journey. But then I think the true journey, really, if there is a journey at all, is you're recognizing where you are. So you are the bliss. And then you're calling all the wandering beings. The wandering beings is, it doesn't really matter where they are. They might be inside you or they might be outside, seemingly outside. So it might look like a different person that you meet or something. And you're welcoming them into love and into your heart, and you're accepting them as they are, not asking them to change. And you're just being yourself. You're being your true nature, which is basically, if you can think of, like, I'm thinking of Muji because like I feel like he's so loving, and I've seen him being so loving with so many who come to him suffering and sharing all these stories, and he just like welcomes them and accepts them as they are. And we can think of many, like you're going to Gangamera like often, and Hanuman, and I'm sure there's many like people that we can think of. Um, but also just inside ourselves. So those people are only able to do that for seeming others because they can do it for themselves. So we don't have to start thinking, I need to do that. I need to do that for other people, and I need to be like a master or something. No, like there's 1 in a million people who will be a master. But like or I or anybody can be that for ourselves. And that's like the most important thing. And I think that's the real spiritual journey. And I mean, that hasn't ended here in myself. So I don't know if that will ever end. And like, I mean, it could, but I wouldn't, if something wasn't happening, like if there was no wandering beings inside me, I wouldn't want to believe that, okay, this has ended. Because it can come from anywhere. And it is the same if it comes from outside. Like if someone comes to me, and even if I see them as suffering and I'm feeling like, oh, they're suffering, like it's part of me really as well. So it doesn't matter. So how can it end? Like as long as there's a world of suffering people, then it's not ended.
And if you've made a commitment to, the effort to help, stopping the effort is letting them down, or,
Yeah,
getting distracted is letting them down.
it's a beautiful verse. So
Mm,
I'll just read it one more time. There
sure.
you go. How can I expect a happy destiny if from my heart I summon wandering beings to the highest bliss, but then deceive and fail them? As for those who, losing bodhicitta, lead others nonetheless to liberation, karmic law is inconceivable and only understood by the omniscient. This failure for the bodhisattva is the gravest of all downfalls, for should it ever come to pass, the good of every being is thrown down. And anyone who, for a single instant, halts the merit of a bodhisattva wanders endlessly in evil states because the welfare of all beings is reduced. Oh. Destroy a single being's joy, and you will work the ruin of yourself. No need to speak of bringing low the joy of beings infinite as space itself. And those who circle in samsara, mixing powerful downfalls with the power of bodhicitta back and forth, will long be hindered from the bodhisattva grounds. And so, according to my promise, I will act attentively. From this day forth, if I now fail to strive, I'll fall from low to even lower states, striving for the benefit of all that lives. Unnumbered Buddhas have already lived and passed away. But I, by virtue of my sins, have failed to come within the compass of their healing works. And this will always be my lot if I continue to behave like this, and I will suffer pains and bondage, wounds and laceration in the lower realms. The appearance of the Buddhas in the world, true faith, and the attainment of a human form, an aptitude for good, all these are rare. When will they come to me again? Today, indeed, I'm hale and well. I have enough to eat and I am not in danger. But this life is fleeting, unreliable. My body is like something briefly lent. And yet, the way I act is such that I shall not regain a human life. And losing this, my precious human form, my evils will be many, virtues none. Here is now my chance for wholesome deeds. But if I fail to practice virtue, what will be my lot? What shall I do? Bewildered by the sorrows of the lower realms. Never there performing any virtue, only ever piling up my sins. And for 100 million ages, I'll not even hear of happy destinies. This is why Lord Buddha has declared that like a turtle that perchance can place its head within a yoke adrift upon the mighty sea, this human birth is difficult to find. I can accept that. Actually, don't know anything about it, I have to say. I don't know anything about if it's difficult or not, but I feel like what we can know, because maybe there's some people who feel like that, like they feel like they know. I feel like I don't know. When someone says it, I'm like, yeah, okay. But I can feel like we kind of have that sense that we do know that our body is fragile and we know that we could die at any moment. And we also know that we don't really know what happens, after you die. I think most people are like that. I think it's good. Like, I think I'm pretty average. Like I don't have any mystical abilities or anything. So that's good. But I
Yeah.
think,
Well, not to interrupt, except
yeah,
to say that the Buddhist literature is full of the concept of reincarnation. And
yeah,
yeah, I think what's more relevant is that um, this human birth as
yeah,
a
yeah,
stage in evolution. You're
yeah,
not a tree or a mollusk
mm,
or a zebra. As a human,
yeah,
there's a
yeah,
special opportunity here.
yeah, yeah. So we can recognize that. But in a way, like, I feel like we don't really, like, I don't really know what it's like to be a mollusk. Like, maybe a little mollusk is like, I think that's a little kind of shell blob.
Yeah,
Little blob
yeah.
that lives in a shell. Like, maybe that little blob is living in the shell, like totally just pure intelligence. So like he doesn't need a human birth because he's beyond he's beyond that already. Like, maybe we'll be lucky to be a mollusk. I don't know. But like what I do know is that, just like, I like to ask myself that, like, just like I know that right here and right now I have the opportunity to, like you said, like, to not wait for the future. Like, you sent me a message recently that said, "Oh, I just realized," or you just had the kind of feeling come over you that, like, happiness is not in the future, it's now.
That
I can't
you
remember the exact
well
words you gave.
that you can't be happy in the future.
You can't be happy in the future. You
Yeah.
actually can't, because where is the future? So it can only be now. So then you might feel, but like, I'm not happy now. So if I can't be happy in the future and I'm not happy now, then what hope is there? Well, it's like, if you're not happy now, it's like we can just choose to recognize that which recognizes the feeling of unhappiness, at least, you know.
Mm, mm,
We can just kind of come out of that suffering state, only now. No,
mm,
no, no, no.
mm.
And I don't think you really need to know about anything about, like, what it's like to be a mollusk or or anything about reincarnation or how wonderful it is to be a human. In a way, we do have a sense of that. I think we can be grateful for now, and we can be grateful that, like, grace is here. And if it seems like grace is not here, because it can feel like that sometimes, if it seems like that, at least we're exposed to these kind of words and this kind of opportunity, and maybe we have a fire inside us to discover it. So even if we haven't discovered that grace is here, that these words are hopefully pointing us to it and pulling us in, because it's like that. You don't just come to these kind of teachings randomly. It's like something wants you, something something is pulling you in. Like maybe it seems like at one point it seems like we are the wandering being. But then at some point it seems like we're the bliss. And maybe in a way we're both and beyond both. So if it seems like you're a wandering being looking for the bliss, then that's fine. Just be the wandering being looking for the bliss. And then like recognize that you are the bliss, and then whatever else after.
The the verse with Shanti Davis saying how the body is just briefly lent is again for me a really strong reminder that
Yeah,
since you have to give every single thing up, you're not
yeah,
taking anything with you. That again,
yeah,
right now is really the only opportunity.
yeah. Like I was remembering this the other day that I don't know, when I was growing up and all, I used to have this kind of sense that I'd be really if I thought about dying, I was like really happy at the thought of dying. I know it sounds weird, but I felt like felt like a big burst of joy, and I felt like I'm going to like know everything when I'm
Mm.
dead.
Ah.
Like when
Mm.
I'm dead. So like, and I'll just like, it was like I had this sense like, yeah, there'll just be this kind of feeling of knowing, like, and anything I want to know, I can know, and everything will be good, basically. And it wasn't really a thing I thought about because I didn't really think about stuff like that as a child, but it was just there. But then one time, just like spontaneously, like I heard this kind of voice in me, and it said, like, do you want to know that knowing now? And then like something was like, yes. So I think it's a good reminder. And I have to remind myself again, because I think that was a really deep thing, that like it will come after death. And maybe it's not only here. I think we can all kind of relate to that. Like we have a fantasy, like there is, in many religions, it's like you'll go to heaven or some nirvana or some type of heaven, like after we die. But like we can't wait till after. It's like it has to be now. And maybe, who knows about after? Maybe it could be after as well if you don't get it here. But why wait? Like now is the choice, because if it's after, I was saying this to Dies on the other day. It's like if it's after, it's like okay, so then your body dies, but then you're just going to be in a state of after again. It could be like that, and then it's just like, and then that's why you have to come around again. It's like okay, you have to go and have a human birth or some kind of any kind of birth. You have to go and have a birth so that you can be happy in the future. It's always like future, 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 but like it doesn't have to be like that. It's like empowered, to take that responsibility into your being now. It's like, no, I choose it now. Choose to know now, now, now.
I, I feel happier as a result of covering these last handful of chapters. And okay, right now
No,
this is the opportunity.
yeah.
And I think I personally when I notice people, and it's really not so common here in this culture, but when I
Hmm.
notice people being angry or judgmental, like really strongly towards
Hmm.
others, I really get this this
Hmm.
oh that's
Yeah.
like I want to step back here. That's not something I want to feed.
Yeah. Hmm.
Mm, mm.
Would you like to read a few verses?
Where are we? 18? Did I switch forward a page?
I think we're on 21.
Okay. If through the evil action of a single instant I must spend an eon in the hell of unrelenting pain, the evils in samsara stored from time without beginning, no need to say that they will keep me from the states of bliss. And mere experience of such pain does not result in being freed from it. For in the very suffering of such states, more evil will occur, and then in great abundance. Thus, having found this moment of reprieve, if I now fail to train myself in virtue, what greater folly could there ever be? How more could I betray myself? Do you want to say something about training yourself in virtue?
Um, I just noticed that someone is listening to us on YouTube, so I wanted to say hello,
Okay.
Lewis.
Hello,
Lewis.
Lewis.
Um, so say
What
something
was,
about
well, this,
train myself in virtue.
yeah, thus having found this moment of reprieve, if I now fail to train myself in virtue, what greater folly could there ever be? How more could I betray myself?
I don't know what's virtue. It's like good qualities, is it? Yeah. So I don't know about. I think you can like it. That's kind of like a human thing, If you're like training yourself in virtue, like I want to be better at loving. I want to be better at being kind to people. I know. And of course, it's not a bad thing. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing. But all of those good qualities are inherently in us, in our true state. So I think our time is better spent in recognizing our true nature and just letting our virtues come forth and maybe surprising us or maybe like, oh, and it just feels natural rather than trying to make it. Like you could see somebody with a good virtue. It's like, oh my God, they're so, and of course we all do this, they're so maybe generous and kind and loving. So I really want to be like that. So I'm going to go and volunteer at this place and do all these things. So the world benefits, I'm sure, from that. But it's probably not really pure, and maybe it's like tinted by, I'm doing this so that I can feel good about myself. Or whatever. There's probably many different reasons. So I'm not saying that I'm right about this, but I'm just saying this is my way of looking at it and my preferred way to see it. So I would prefer to just let my, and it's not mine then, it's like it's the good qualities and virtue of God.
Mm,
So if that comes true here, then I can only be grateful,
mm,
and then it just makes you feel in a way, I don't know, just the sense of like it makes you feel more just grateful. And I have this kind of image of like dropping down to like the feet of God or grace or your master or whatever, like
mm,
you're totally surrendered. So
mm,
like that, those good qualities, they're not belonging. If something comes from here, it doesn't belong to me
mm,
because who am I? Like,
mm,
you know, and that would be my preferred way to be.
mm,
And I mean, it might not always be like that. I'm not saying it's always like that. Like maybe it happens sometimes. Like it does happen sometimes. So, I'm a mother of a small child. So sometimes I have to try to practice patience, and I'm not always patient. Sometimes it happens that I am just patient, and I feel like it's like that. I'm like, oh, so glad. It's like patience is just coming. But like sometimes at different times, like maybe something inside me is like kind of triggered or something like, or I'm going through some, like I'm could be tired, or maybe I have something activated that's nothing to do with him. But then if he's behaving in whatever, he has his things. So it's a little bit more difficult to be patient. So then that's practicing a virtue, isn't it? I'm trying really hard to be patient because of course I don't want to be angry at my child, or like I don't want to be snappy and say, like, just stop it.
mm, mm,
Even though like that might happen sometimes. So I think of course there's a place for everything. There's a place for everything. So we can practice our virtues if we want to. Train in our virtues. So I guess to be then if you imagine like what's the total opposite? The total opposite is just disregarding virtues altogether. And then ideas as a way to be bad. You'd say, well, all virtues belong to God, so I'll just wait till I recognize the truth and let God act through here. And
mm,
until then, I'm just going to, I'm not going to care about good qualities. I'm just going to be mean to everyone, shout at everyone, and be rude and all.
mm,
So that's also not good as well.
mm. Shall I
So
continue?
yeah, I think maybe it's not so much about what we do as to our kind of how we feel about it in our hearts.
Mm.
Because there is no one answer for everybody. Mm. Mhm. Yes, please continue.
If having understood all this, I'm stupidly despondent still, then at the moment of my death, my sorrows will be black indeed. And when my body burns so long in fires of hell so unendurable, My mind, there is no doubt, will also be tormented, burned in fires of unendurable regret. For it's as if by chance that I have gained this state so hard to find wherein to help myself. If now, while having such discernment, I am once again consigned to hell, I am as if benumbed by sorcery, as if reduced to total mindlessness. I do not know what dulls my wits. Oh, what is it that has me in its grip? Anger, lust, these enemies of mine are limbless and devoid of faculties. They have no bravery, no cleverness. How then have they reduced me to such slavery? They dwell within my mind and at their pleasure injure me. All this I suffer meekly, unresenting, thus my abject patience all displaced. If all the gods and demigods besides together came against me as my foes, they would be powerless to throw me down to fires of hell, of unrelenting pain. And yet, the mighty fiend of my afflictions flings me in an instant headlong down to where the mighty Lord of mountains would be burned, its very ashes all consumed. O my enemy, afflictive passion, endless and beginningless companion, no other enemy indeed is able to endure so long. All other foes that I appease and wait upon will show me favors, give me every aid. But should I serve my dark defiled emotions, they will only harm me, draw me down to grief. If thus my ancient and unceasing foes, the wellspring only of my growing pain, can lodge so safe within my heart, how can I live so blithe and fearless in this wheel of life? And if the jail guards of the prisons of Samsara, the butchers and tormentors of infernal realms all lurk within me in the web of craving, what joy can ever be my destiny? I will not leave the fight until before my eyes these enemies of mine are all destroyed.
Mm.
For if aroused by fury, by the merest light, by the merest slight, incapable of sleep until the scores are settled, proud but wretched rivals, destined all to suffer when they die, will draw the battle lines and do their best to win, and careless of the pain of cut and thrust, will stand their ground, refusing to give way. No need to say that I will not lose heart, regardless of the hardships of the fray. From this day forth, I'll strive to crush these foes whose very nature is to bring me pain. The wounds inflicted by the enemy in futile wars are flaunted by the soldier as a prize. So, in the high endeavor for so great a thing, why should I be dismayed by hurt or injury? When fishers, butchers, farmers, and the like, intending just to gain their livelihood, will suffer all the miseries of heat and cold, why, for being's happiness, should those like me not bear the same? When I pledged myself to free from their afflictions, let me try that again. When I pledged myself to free from their afflictions, beings who abide in every region, stretching to the limits of the sky, I was myself not free from such defilements. To speak like that, not knowing my capacity, were these not truly but a madman's words? More reason, then, for never drawing back, abandoning the fight against defiled affliction. It's an effort to become conscious. Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
This shall be my all-consuming passion. Filled with rancor, I will wage my war. Defilement of this kind will halt defilement, and for this reason it shall not be spurned. Better if I perish in the fire, better that my head be severed from my body, than ever I should serve or reverence my mortal enemies, defiled emotions.
That's
So,
very extreme, isn't it?
yeah, I mean,
Which number is that on?
it's
Which verse?
44, 44.
Better if I perish in the fire, better that my head be severed from my body than ever I should serve or reverence my mortal enemies, defiled emotions. So is that like he'd prefer to be dead than to serve all this stuff that happens that seems to happen inside us, all the faults? Oh,
He'd
really?
rather take a different
Yeah.
position than to, to go with it, to, as in your
Yeah.
words, to believe it as true.
Yeah. That's great. I think it's very strong. And I think it's great if we could all be like that. It's like, it's just like you're recognizing that it's not, it's like, yeah, like I know somebody, I shouldn't say it now. I won't say who, but like there's somebody that I know and they're very kind of patriotic, and they're kind of like saying, like, I would never, they said something to me the other day, like, like we're in Ireland. And Ireland and England used to fight, so English people like killed a lot of Irish people now. But now there's still some like places like that are English. So he says, no, like I wouldn't go there because like would you really go to like if somebody killed your ancestors? Like he basically said, yeah, if someone killed your granny or something, and then they have a pub down the road, and even if it's 2 or 3 centuries later, like it's still the same family, are you really going to go and like drink in that pub? And you're like, well, probably not. Like you're probably not going to, well, you might, like some people get over, but it's the same kind of thing. So he's very kind of like adamant about that, like so if we could have the same amount of adamance, against the like, so he thinks that's the enemy, you know, in a way, like it's still the enemy. It's the enemy, even though like nothing is happening anymore. So if we could have that kind of um adamance about that, like because we don't really see it. We don't see it as an enemy, because we believe that we are it. So we see that it makes us suffer. We all know that it makes us suffer, but we blame ourselves is the problem. We blame ourselves and say, like, this is me. And yeah, it doesn't feel good. And even we can recognize that it's not serving us. I think like we're all intelligent enough to recognize that. But somehow because we take it to be ourselves, we're not able to be adamant enough. So I think that's a very important piece to be able to be um hold it, you could say, as an enemy. I don't know if it's really the best way of looking at it, but like if you're able to hold that kind of as an enemy, it has to be something different than you, because then you have a different position. So you can be like, okay, it's not me, it's not me. um,
Mm, mm.
so I mean, there's arguments about that way of looking at it, holding it as an enemy. But I mean, if it works, there's no one right way, or you know,
Should
works
I
for
continue?
Shanty David.
Yeah. Should I continue?
Yeah.
Common foes, when driven from the state, retreat and base themselves in other lands, and muster all their strength the better to return. But enemy afflictions are without such stratagems. Miserable defilements, scattered by the eye of wisdom. Where will you now run, when driven from my mind? Whence would you return to do me harm? But oh, my mind is feeble, I am indolent. Defilements are not in the object, nor within the faculties, nor somewhere in between. And if not elsewhere, where is their abode, whence they inflict their havoc on the world? They are simple mirages, and
Mm,
so take heart. Banish all your fear and strive to know their nature. Why suffer needlessly the pains of hell?
mm,
And this is you often telling me about something that taking, believing it, taking
mm,
something, whatever it is, to be real when it's just
yeah,
imaginary.
yeah.
Here's the last verse, and maybe you want to reflect on the last couple.
Mm.
This is how I should reflect and labor, that I might apply the precepts thus set forth. What invalids in need of medicine ignored their doctor's words and gained their health?
It's true. I'm always saying that to Eshan. It's like if I bring him to the doctor, I said, like, if you go to the doctor, like, you really have to do what the doctor says, because then what's the point in going to the doctor if you don't do what he says? So like I've said it to him quite a good few times, because the doctor might tell him to, like, he has to eat or he has to do something, and he won't listen to me, but he'll listen to the doctor. So I say we're gonna go to the doctor, and if whatever the doctor says, like, you have to take it. So yeah, it's the same. So this Shanti Deva is our doctor right now. If you're listening to this and if you're open to this, and it doesn't have to be Shanti Deva, like Shanti Deva is one stream, it might be whoever your teacher is, but if you're going to go to them, at least, let see, there is that thing like that we have doubt in our minds, and that's the problem. Like, so if you didn't have doubt, you could take it. So I do understand, even if you come to like Shanti David, or even if you come to, even if it was like God himself, like right there in a human form, we just happen to have this kind of stream of doubt, and we're not able to fully take the doctor's medicine and the doctor's words. So I think that's also okay. We just do it to the capacity that we can. But what the doctor is given is to help that doubt to go, so we have to just kind of, in a way, we have to kind of have courage, isn't it? And faith and trust. Like, they're all very basic things that are probably talked about in every single religion and every single stream of spirituality. And that's because doubt is one of our biggest enemies. It's one of our biggest enemies, because if we didn't have doubt, then we would just, we'd recognize, because we do, we recognize what's here. But then because there's like seemingly something else, like, we do, if we can really trust what we say to be true, there's that kind of like doubt. So therefore, that's why we need to have faith and courage and trust in the doctor. And sometimes the doctor is life itself, just as well. Like, like life gives us a whole scenario that is going to help us to grow. So, taking the medicine from the doctor in that scenario would be to really to kind of like trust the process, that it's something good for us, because like we said, like, everything is grace, really. But until we know that and feel it, then we still need the medicine of the doctor. And then even when we don't need it, you can still continue to take the medicine if you want. A little bit like homeopathy. It's not going to do you. It's not going to do you any harm if you take it. Like, if you go to kind of like the usual medical doctors, if you take too much medicine, it's not good. But in homeopathy, it's like, it will help you and it will do what you need it to do. But if you take too much, it's okay. It doesn't matter. Can't do you any harm. I like that.
Well, it always feels good to offer, kindness and compassion, and to, um, you know, alleviate suffering in apparent others,
Yeah.
because, they're just I feel like when I can see someone reflecting me, that's kind of my highest truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That is the highest truth. And only when you're connected to the true part of yourself, only then you can really see it reflected somewhere else. Like, how can you recognize it otherwise? And you can see it everywhere. Even maybe you could see it in a wall. Yeah, why not?
Well, I find it especially easy with you, so just saying.
That's good, thank you. Look, I want to read this because I think it was good. I don't know if Lewis is still here anymore, but it was good. Lewis Smith. Do you remember we were in the middle of the conversation and we were talking about taking responsibility and like the now and the future and all? So he said, responsibility eliminates the need for a future. And I think that's really good and really just concise and short. Because as soon as you're taking responsibility for really what's happening inside you, you're totally empowered and you're present, you're here and now. Like there really is no need for a future. Because what we tend to do is blame. We tend to, if you're not taking responsibility, you're like blaming or you're waiting, on everything. It's like it's outside you in some other place and time. So then you need a future, because if the person is over there, you're gonna need to get there so you can shout at them. Or you're gonna need to wait until another period in the timeline, so you need a future. But if you're taking responsibility, like everything is just here and now. Just here and now. So there is no need for a future. So, pretty good. And it doesn't mean that everything needs to be gone. Like it's like, okay, I don't think it's really like that you don't that enemy, it's kind of talked about as an enemy in this chapter. I don't think that necessarily needs to be gone, but just that we don't let it I don't know. Can't really do this anyway. It's like break down our castle walls. Can't break down our walls anyway. But we just don't let it into the castle. And it can't even get in, you see. It's the thing. Maybe it's that we don't come out, do it. And then what happens is like we come out and we forget about our castle. It's like then we're looking for our home. We like in spirituality, we think of it as our home, don't we? Anyway, so we come out to the battleground and then we're like, I want to go home. I want to go home. And it's like the home is right here. And it's like, I don't know where my home is, even though it's like and if you painted a picture, it'd be like the big castle on the big white castle on top of the hill. So you can see it from everywhere. Like there's nowhere you can go in the battleground that you can't see the big white castle on top of the hill. It's like it's right here. It's like just turn around and you'll see it. And you can go home anytime you want. But like we get so like caught up in the battle and all that. It's like we fail to look and to recognize that our home is right here. And it's even closer than that. You don't even have to turn around and go back. Really. But just as a picture. So that was a nice chapter. So thank you to Shanti Deva. We're quite lucky, aren't we? We had like Ribu. We sat with Ribu for quite a long time, and now we're sitting with Shanti Deva. We're getting to sit with the really good masters.
And he's really just getting started. I mean, there's 12 chapters here. We've covered 4. I think it just goes deeper and better all the way through.
It was like Muji's birthday recently, and I wrote a message just on Facebook and I said like happy birthday, and I was thinking like what'll I write, and I thought like, oh yeah, I'm so grateful to be here in the same time as you. But now when I said this, like we're so grateful. I'm so grateful to be able to, and we're blessed. We're able to sit with Shanti Deva. So like the great masters of not like our time, but the great masters of time itself. So even Moody, maybe sometime maybe in 200 years, he'll just be like a master of, I mean, that's debatable. I know there's many people in the world now who will say, no, he's not a master, because there are. But like for the people who take him as that in any time, and of course there's many people who probably say, no, Shanti Dev is not a master or Ribu is not a master. But whoever you take to be your master, it doesn't really matter if you're in the same time, because all time is our time. All time from the beginning to end. It's just time. And as long as time is here, all the great teachers are here. Like just here in our heart. It's my hand up again. Why am I putting my hand up? I wonder.
I think you're blessing me with that beautiful golden hand is what's going on.
What's going on? But I don't have golden hands though.
Oh, okay. Well, I still feel it. So this month-to-month schedule is working?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Thank
All
you.
right, so next one will be in March. And if you have a moment, if you can pass me the recording from the same way, maybe I'll pull out a short and find one you like and you can put it up.
Yeah, great. That'll be fun. Thank you for doing that.
My pleasure.
Mhm. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time and your everything that you bring to this meeting.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. I wish you a beautiful day.
And you. See you soon.